Hey guys, Matt here. So today we are doing a review of a set of knives actually in the same series. Today we are reviewing the Cold Steel Luzon. But we are not just reviewing the medium, guys. We are also reviewing the large Cold Steel Luzon. First of all, I want to ask you to remember to like and subscribe if you don't mind, to keep up with the content flow. I'm having a really good time. Got some background noise going on tonight. It's getting later on in the day, so the cicadas are chirping away. But we're just going to continue with the review. First of all, I want to thank my buddy Ben Dyson again for doing a real quick sale of this Luzon. I am happy to trade with him and many people on those knife groups on Facebook. It's a lot of fun. If you're not a part of those, you should join. There's quite a few. So, as always, we're going to look at what I like, what I dislike, and something unique about the Cold Steel Luzons. But first, let's talk about some specs. So, guys, if you can't tell, this large Luzon is enormous. Look at it compared to the medium Luzon. To give you an example of size, the extra large Cold Steel Voyager is right here. The Luzon is right here. It is quite a bit bigger. So when you're talking about Luzon, for the medium, you are talking about a 4-inch blade. This is made of HCR13 MOV. It's got a grivery handle with liners. I believe those are steel. They might be aluminum. Anyway, they are skeletonized, which makes the nice and light. It's got a kind of clip point style blade with a fuller right there, as you can see. It is a flipper design. It also does have a thumb stud. For the medium, you're looking at between 30 and 40 bucks, and in all honesty, for the large, you're probably looking at about 5-10 bucks more than that. So it does have an aluminum backspacer as well, and you're looking at a plastic pocket clip on this, and again, it is a flipper design with a thumb stud. So, what do I like, what do I don't like? There's these knives, just, I can't get over how big this thing is. There's a lot to like, first of all, with these knives. First off, what I want to say is I love the design of this knife. It looks like kind of a modified clip point blade, but it seems like it has more Asiatic elements design, Asiatic design to it, because I think this is meant to mimic bamboo, but it is a really sweet, really pretty actually blade. I pulled this blade out in front of someone and they're like, wow, that's a really pretty blade. And it is a very pretty blade, especially this big one with nice and shiny. It's a pretty blade, but it's also functional. You have that straight edge, you have that belly, nice precise tip, not overly precise. So it has a good balance. So I do really like this blade design. I think for the price, HCR13 is a good choice. 30 to 40 bucks. HCR is a good steal for that price range, and I have no complaints on that. Another thing I really like on both of these guys is the handle. It is slim, and in this one, it might not be as hand-filling, but it's still going to be really comfortable, and it keeps the knife very narrow, as you can see, in comparison to this. This is a 4-inch blade, guys. This is a full-size, tactical knife. It's a full-size folding knife. It just looks so small when you compare it to, say, something like that. So, I do really like the handle. I think it's comfortable. On this one, it's less hand-filling. It feels kind of 940, Benchmade 940-esque. It has a little bit more room, obviously, but the thinness kind of has that kind of feel to it. And that pocket clip lends itself to that. I talked about that in the Cold Steel Kiridashi review. While I'm not the biggest fan of plastic pocket clips, it does make the handle a lot more comfortable than having a metal pocket clip on it. So, when you're talking about the handle on this one, even more comfortable. I mean, this is perfect for my thick hands. I mean, you can see how far you can choke back up on that. I mean, you can get 3 extra inches of reach with this. I have no doubt this is a great fighting knife, even though I'm not a knife fighter. So, love the handle, love the blade. What else do I like? Guys, this is a very smooth design. As a flipper, it flips out very smooth. It's not going to be like crazy super drop shutty, but it is very smooth. You don't have to give it, you don't have to give it any wrist. You can really just flick that thing out. And with this one, because the blade is so heavy, guys, this thing just falls shut. You can see that. And there is no wiggle on side to side. So the pivot and the smoothness of the liner locks on this, I think, is fantastic for the price point. I mean, you want a really smooth knife, this is it. It's going to be even smoother than Cold Steel's Triads. not as smooth as some others. You know, it's not as smooth as, say, I don't have a table on me, so I'm setting these knives very carefully. This Jumbone, CRKT Jumbones, you know, this is a ball bearing design, so it's just going to be real smooth to open and close. So it's not going to be quite as smooth as this, but it's going to be the next best thing when you're talking about smoothness of action. So I love the smoothness of the action. Another thing I really like about this is you can see this has a flipper design, but it also has a front guard. That acts as a guard to stop your hand from riding up if you had to do any piercing with it, but it also acts as a pocket flipper. So when you pull it out of your pocket, this part will grab on your jeans or your pants and pull open. I really like that. I've done that a couple times with these knives, and I think it's really, really cool. So I like having that pocket flare design. So I like the handle. I like the blade style. I like the steel. I think it's a good steel choice. I like the flipper design. I think it's smooth, and it is, it's very effective for what the knife is and for how much it costs. So there's a lot to like on this knife. Let's get into what I don't like. Really only one big thing. I've talked about this before in knives, I think it was in this random Gerber review I did. Guys, I don't want safeties on my knives. I just don't. I don't want a safety on a knife. With an auto, I can understand it more and I can deal with it more. But with a liner lock flipper design knife, I don't want a safety on it. Now, I get, if this is like a fighting knife and, you know, God forbid you had to use one of these to defend your life, hopefully it would be a bigger one, and you wanted to lock that in that way, this thing was not going to close no matter where your hand migrated, no matter what you had to do. Maybe that was the design choice because they want this to be a fighting knife and they want you to open it, lock it, and not worry about where your hand goes. And that makes sense. So from that perspective, I can understand. But from a general user perspective, not that you would be using this for many practical things, this big one anyway, but from a general user perspective on this thing, I don't want that safety there just because I'm going to flip this out and open a box. I did it today a couple times. That being said, even though I am going to say it's a negative just because I don't like having safeties on my knives. That's just my personal opinion. That's what a review is. It's a personal opinion. Even though I don't like having safeties on my knives, this safety is one of the best knife safeties I've used. One, it's positive. So it's not really loose and jangly. It's not going to accidentally flip up. It has this very solid sound when you open and close or engage and disengage the safety. So that's good. Another thing I like about the safety is it's very clear to see when it's on or off. This is clearly off, and then when you flip it out, that's clearly on, right? Another thing that I think the safety is designed well is because it is big enough and easy enough to work with. You don't have to fumble with it. You know, it's smooth, it slides smoothly, but it's also positive, so it stays in place when you open or close it. So I've carried these a decent amount, and you know what? I haven't had to worry about the safety. So I am going to say it's a negative because I just don't like having safeties on my knives. I can understand from maybe a tactical perspective why they put the safeties on these knives. So that is what I don't like, and that's where it ends. I mentioned the plastic pocket clip, and I'm not going to say that's a negative or a positive. If I had to put it in a talking point, I would say it's a neutral because I understand why they did it. And like I said, it makes it so much more comfortable to carry. So I like the blade. I like the handle. I like the design. I think the steel choice is good. I think it's fantastic for the price. I mean, look at this thing. I think these are like $38 on Amazon, $40 on Amazon. You cannot get a knife this big that's actually made well. I mean, you have HCR steel, skeletonized liners, you know, Grivery, which is a good handle material. This is a well-made knife, and it's huge. And it's cool to have. It's cool to flip out and show your friends, you know, if they're not scared of that kind of stuff. And they just, you know, they get that look. You blade guys know if you carry big knives, they're like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. What do you need that for? Mostly just to be cool. But anyway, I would absolutely recommend both of these knives. If you want something a little bit more tame, but that's still a full-size knife, go with the medium. And if you want something that is just big and boisterous and out there, get this thing. Better yet, honestly, just get both. So I would recommend both of these. when you're talking about something that's kind of similar, I've shown this a couple times, I think, on camera. This is the CRKT Jumbones. Now, this is the full size. They make a smaller one called the Crossbones. Crossbones is 3.6 inches, I believe. This is Osade steel, so similar steel. I would prefer Osade over ATR, though. But this is a big knife, guys. This is almost a 5-inch blade. It's like 4.9 inches. So most people would, they'd see this and they'd be like, oh my goodness, that's way too big. And then maybe you pull out something like this Cold Steel Voyager, and you're like, oh my goodness, that's even bigger. It's more than a 1/2 inch bigger. Well, then you pull out something like this Cold Steel Luzon 6-inch blade for $40. I think that it's a complete win from Cold Steel. Pick up both of these Luzons and just have them to have them. If you're a knife fighter guy, I'm sure these, function well in those categories. But I think these are absolute recommends. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.